My name is Clover, and for most of my life, I've been the shadow in the room. The one you barely noticed, the one whose voice was a whisper, if it was heard at all. I'm 48 years old and currently, I live in a quiet, unassuming house on the outskirts of town, the kind of place you'd drive past without a second glance. My life now is one of comfortable anonymity, a stark contrast to the storm that once raged within me. People always assumed my silence was a sign of weakness, of shyness, even ignorance. They thought I was an open book, easily dismissed, a background character in their vibrant narratives. They were wrong. So incredibly wrong. My quiet demeanor wasn't a lack of anything. It was a shield, a camouflage, and most importantly, a well-guarded vault. The moment of my breaking point wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, agonizing grind, like a millstone crushing my spirit, bit by bit. It was the day I realized that my kindness, my trust, my very being, had been systematically exploited, discarded, and ridiculed by the very people I had loved and supported. It was the day I understood that being the quiet one had made me invisible, and that invisibility had been twisted into an opportunity for their betrayal. Can you imagine the sting of realizing your entire existence has been built on a foundation of deceit, crafted by those closest to you? How do you come back from that? How do you exact justice when no one even knows you exist? This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about the silent strength that lies dormant within us, waiting for the right moment to erupt. It's about how the most unassuming among us can possess the sharpest minds, the deepest resilience, and the most unyielding resolve. If you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or invisible, then this story is for you. Stay with me, and you'll see just how loud silence can truly be. And if you connect with this tale, if it resonates deep within your own quiet corners, consider sharing your thoughts and subscribing. Your engagement fuels these stories. They called me Mouse. Not to my face, of course, but I heard it. Whispers in the hallways, snickers behind cupped hands. Just the mouse in the corner, they'd say, referring to me, Clover, the dependable, always there but never truly seen younger sister. For years, I played the part. I listened, I absorbed, I observed. I was the keeper of secrets, the shoulder to cry on, the silent pillar for my older sister, Vivian, and her husband, Mark. Vivian was the dazzling one, the life of every party, effortlessly charming. Mark, her husband, was the ambitious one, always talking about his big plans, his grand ventures that never quite materialized without a little, or a lot, of my financial help. I worked hard, scrimped, and saved every penny from my modest administrative job. My life was simple, almost Spartan. I didn't need much, or so I told myself. My greatest joy was seeing Vivian happy, seeing Mark's businesses take off, businesses I, in my quiet way, had a significant stake in. Not just emotionally, but financially. They always painted it as a temporary measure, a loan, an investment that would surely bring me huge returns. "You'll be rich, Clover," Mark would promise, his arm slung around my shoulder, a gesture that now feels like a viper's embrace. "We'll take care of you." I believed them. I wanted to believe them. My parents, God rest their souls, had always praised Vivian, doted on her, saw her as their shining star. I was the sensible one, the responsible one, the one who would be fine on her own. Their approval, their love, felt conditional, always tied to how much I could facilitate Vivian's dreams. So I became the silent enabler, the bank of last resort, the one who always showed up, no questions asked. The money wasn't just my savings, it was my emotional currency, my silent plea for recognition, for belonging. Each check I wrote, each late-night phone call I answered, each problem I solved, was a brick in a wall of resentment I didn't even realize I was building. The scars weren't visible, but they ran deep, etched onto my spirit by years of being taken for granted, of being invisible. The transition from silent observer to active participant in my own undoing was so gradual, I barely noticed it happening. It was like the slow creep of ivy, beautiful at first, then suffocating. The crushing revelation didn't come with a bang, but with a whimper. A series of small, seemingly insignificant events that, when pieced together, formed a tapestry of betrayal so intricate, it took my breath away. It started with a misplaced bank statement. Mine, but in Vivian's mail, tucked away in a pile of her own bills. I opened it, a knot of unease already tightening in my stomach. It was an account I didn't recognize, one with a substantial balance. My mind raced. Had I forgotten an investment? No. The account holder's name was Vivian and Mark Industries. My name was nowhere on it. But the transactions, they were all transfers from my accounts, the very loans I had given them over the years, now labeled as donations in their ledgers. The unease curdled into a cold dread. I started digging quietly, methodically. I accessed old email accounts, sifting through years of correspondence. I found hushed conversations, veiled references, and finally, outright confessions. Emails between Vivian and Mark, detailing how they were managing my money, how I was so easy to fool, how my naivete was a blessing. They laughed at my quiet nature, called me their personal ATM, marveling at how I never asked questions. The cruelest blow was an email from Vivian to a friend, boasting about their new house, describing it as the fruit of Clover's unquestioning generosity. My generosity was their cash cow, my quiet trust their punchline. The house, the very house they proudly displayed as a testament to their success, was largely funded by my life savings. My retirement fund, my emergency savings, the inheritance from our grandmother that was meant to be shared equally. All of it siphoned away, slowly, meticulously, over 2 decades. They had left me with just enough to scrape by, ensuring I wouldn't raise alarms, but not enough to ever truly thrive. The emotional toll was heavier than the financial one. It wasn't just the money. It was the years of false smiles, the comforting words that were merely a performance, the supposed sisterly love that was nothing but a manipulative act. They had seen me as a resource, not a human being. The quiet mouse they thought would never wake up. The silence that had once been my comfort became a suffocating shroud, a symbol of my own unwitting complicity in my downfall. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a psychological dismantling. Every memory I had of them, every shared laugh, every moment of supposed intimacy, now felt tainted, a cruel mockery of what I believed was genuine connection. My heart, once brimming with a quiet affection for them, began to harden, piece by agonizing piece. The transformation from hurt to resolution wasn't instantaneous. It was a slow burn, fueled by the embers of my shattered trust and the growing inferno of their deceit. The initial shock gave way to a chilling calm. There were no tears, no screaming fits, no dramatic confrontations. That wasn't my style. My silence, which they had so gleefully exploited, became my greatest weapon. If they underestimated me, if they believed I was incapable of anything more than passive acceptance, then that was their fatal flaw. I began to observe them with a new set of eyes that saw through their elaborate charade. Every casual remark, every boast about their new acquisitions, every subtle manipulation became data points in my meticulous plan. I started small. First, I changed my own banking habits, moving funds, setting up new accounts they knew nothing about. Then I began to gather evidence. Years of bank statements, emails, recorded phone calls, anything that proved their systematic theft. I learned about their business dealings, their partnerships, their vulnerabilities. I spent countless nights poring over legal documents, tax codes, and financial regulations. I enrolled in online courses on forensic accounting and corporate law, all in secret. My evenings, once spent in quiet solitude, became a blur of learning, strategizing, and planning. I was no longer the mouse. I was the spider, weaving a complex web, thread by invisible thread. My personal appearance also underwent a subtle shift. I started wearing clothes that fit me better, getting a new haircut, investing in myself in small, almost imperceptible ways. Not for vanity, but for strength. Each change was a step towards shedding the skin of the quiet one they knew. I needed to be someone they wouldn't recognize, someone who could blend seamlessly into the shadows while executing a plan that would bring their empire crashing down. The thought of confronting them directly, of airing my grievances, held no appeal. They thrived on drama, on grand gestures. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be meticulously quiet, a precise surgical strike. I envisioned their faces when the truth finally caught up with them. Not my truth, but the truth revealed by the cold, hard facts I was so painstakingly collecting. The silence I had cultivated for so long now felt like a superpower. It allowed me to move unseen, to gather information without suspicion, to build my case brick by unyielding brick. They had taught me the ultimate lesson. Never underestimate the power of quiet observation and calculated patience. The deeper I delved into their deception, the clearer my path became. Each discovery was a step closer to the unraveling of their carefully constructed lies. The first thread I pulled was Mark's primary business venture, a seemingly successful import-export company. Through my diligent research, I uncovered a tangled web of shell corporations, inflated invoices, and questionable international dealings. It was a classic money laundering scheme, thinly veiled as legitimate trade. My years of providing them with loans had inadvertently made me an unwitting financier of their illicit activities. This realization was a double-edged sword, deeply unsettling, but also incredibly empowering. I now had leverage far beyond just personal betrayal. I compiled a comprehensive dossier, meticulously detailing every fraudulent transaction, every fabricated document, every shady deal. I cross-referenced bank records with shipping manifests, tax filings, and even private correspondence I managed to intercept. It was a painstaking process, requiring late nights and an almost obsessive attention to detail. I contacted former employees of Mark's, people who had been quietly disgruntled, some even outright wronged by his unethical practices. They too had been silenced, intimidated, or simply overlooked. They became my unexpected allies, providing crucial insights and corroborating evidence. Next, I focused on Vivian. Her charity work, which she so proudly flaunted, was nothing more than a front for tax evasion and self-aggrandizement. Funds meant for noble causes were diverted into personal accounts, lavish parties, and designer clothes. I collected evidence of fake invoices, doctored donor lists, and phantom beneficiaries. The irony was bitter. She had built her public persona on generosity while privately siphoning away my life savings and defrauding genuine philanthropic efforts. My quiet nature allowed me to move in circles they never suspected. I joined volunteer groups they were involved in, attended their charity galas, and listened. I observed their interactions, their tells, the subtle ways they revealed their true nature to those who paid close enough attention. The more I learned, the more disgusted I became, and the more resolute my purpose grew. Their carefully constructed lives, built on a foundation of lies and my unsuspecting contributions, were about to unravel. And I, the quiet mouse, would be the one to pull the string. As the pieces of their grand deception fell into place, my resolve solidified. The path to justice, once a murky shadow, now gleamed with chilling clarity. With my meticulously compiled dossiers in hand, it was time to make the first move. This wouldn't be a dramatic confrontation, but a precise legal maneuver. I approached a reputable law firm specializing in financial fraud and white-collar crime. I didn't walk in with accusations. I walked in with irrefutable evidence. The lawyers, initially skeptical of my unassuming appearance, quickly shifted their demeanor as they reviewed the binders of documents, the meticulously organized spreadsheets, and the damning audio recordings. Their expressions moved from polite interest to outright astonishment. "Ms. Clover," one of them finally said, his voice hushed with awe, "this is extraordinary." My instruction was clear: absolute discretion. I wanted no leaks, no early warnings. They were to act swiftly and decisively, targeting Mark's business first. The goal wasn't just to reclaim my stolen fortune, but to expose their fraudulent activities to the fullest extent of the law. The legal process began quietly, like a silent predator stalking its prey. Subpoenas were issued, accounts frozen, and investigations launched, all without Mark and Vivian having the slightest clue. They were too busy basking in their fabricated success, oblivious to the storm gathering on their horizon. I continued to maintain my quiet presence in their lives, attending family gatherings, offering polite pleasantries, even exchanging occasional texts. It was agonizing, forcing myself to smile, to pretend everything was normal, but it was essential. My ability to remain composed, to hide the inferno raging within me, was a testament to how deeply they had underestimated my resolve. They saw the same old Clover, the one who never made waves. They had no idea they were sitting on a ticking time bomb, and I held the detonator. Each passing day brought them closer to their reckoning, and me closer to the quiet satisfaction of justice served. The chessboard was set, and the first piece had been moved. The game, I knew, was far from over, but the advantage was now undeniably mine. The quiet ripple of legal action began to spread, unseen by its targets, yet destined to become a tidal wave. Their arrogance, once a fortress, was slowly becoming their downfall. The facade didn't crumble all at once. It cracked, then splintered, then finally shattered. It started with whispers. Rumors of investigations, of frozen assets, of clients pulling out of Mark's successful company. First, his bank accounts were flagged, then his lines of credit vanished. Soon, the news became undeniable. Federal agents raided his offices, seizing documents and computers. The story hit the local news. A major financial fraud investigation involving a prominent local businessman. Mark's name, once synonymous with ambition, was now linked to scandal. He was arrested, a mugshot splashed across the front page, his arrogant smirk replaced by a look of bewildered terror. Vivian, initially dismissing it as a minor misunderstanding, found herself caught in the crossfire. Her charity came under scrutiny, donations suddenly drying up, and whispers of financial impropriety turning into a full-blown audit. The carefully constructed image of the benevolent socialite collapsed, revealing the manipulative schemer beneath. Friends deserted her, social invitations ceased, and the lavish life she had cultivated began to unravel. She was questioned, her face tight with a desperation I had never seen before. It wasn't the kind of dramatic meltdown I might have imagined, but a slow, agonizing process of public humiliation and legal repercussions. I watched it all unfold from a distance, a quiet spectator to their self-destruction. There was no joy, only a profound sense of grim satisfaction. My money, my inheritance, was slowly being recovered through legal channels, but the true victory wasn't financial. It was the shattering of their carefully crafted lies, the exposure of their true character to the world they so desperately tried to impress. They had built their lives on deception, and now, the foundation had given way. The quiet one, the one they had dismissed, had orchestrated their downfall, not with shouts or accusations, but with meticulous planning and unyielding resolve. My silence had not only hidden a fortune, but had also crafted a cold, calculated revenge. The dust settled, revealing a landscape irrevocably altered. The silence that once defined me had become the very force that reshaped their world. Today, Mark is serving a lengthy prison sentence for fraud and money laundering. Vivian, though she avoided jail time due to a plea bargain and a skillfully negotiated settlement, lost everything. Her reputation is in tatters, her social standing evaporated, and she lives a life of quiet isolation, devoid of the luxuries and accolades she once craved. My fortune, much of it recovered, has been reinvested, managed by trusted professionals. I still live in my unassuming house, but it's no longer out of necessity. It's a choice, a reflection of the quiet contentment I've found. My life now is one of purpose, free from the shadows of betrayal. I volunteer at a women's shelter, dedicating my time to helping others who have been underestimated and exploited. The key lesson from my story is simple: never underestimate the quiet one. Silence is not emptiness. It is a canvas upon which plans can be meticulously drawn, a shield behind which strength can be cultivated, and a powerful weapon when wielded with intention. My silence hid a fortune, but more importantly, it hid a resilience, a calculating mind, and an unyielding will for justice. If you are the quiet one, the one often overlooked or dismissed, know this: your silence is your power. It allows you to observe, to learn, to strategize. Don't let anyone mistake your calm for weakness. Cultivate your inner strength, nurture your intellect, and when the time comes, let your actions speak volumes. Your story, like mine, could be one of quiet triumph. Reflect on your own hidden strengths. What silent powers do you possess? How can you use them to forge your own path, to achieve your own justice, or simply to thrive on your own terms? My journey began in the shadows of their deceit, but it ended in the quiet, undeniable light of my own strength. The mouse, it turns out, had claws. And she wasn't afraid to use them.